Hey guys, Michael from Copper vs Glass, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at how to get Stadia running on your iPad and more specifically Cyberpunk. Now there has been some workarounds in the past in regards to getting Stadia up and running on an iOS or iPad device, but they've been maybe a little bit more complicated than the way we're going to be looking at today. Now I have done a previous video on a workaround for Stadia on the iPad and iOS devices, but Apple has done their usual thing, come in, taken it down, and it no longer works. However, the way that we're going to be looking at today is a lot more legitimate, and it works, and is actually approved by Apple, so let's take a look. But before we get into today's video, I do want to give a quick disclaimer for a previous video that I've done on the Stadia controller, where I said that you have to have it connected to your device with a cable. Now, yes, that was me maybe not doing as much research, but it was the first time that I've used a controller, and yes, you can use it without having to actually have it plugged in. So if you want to go ahead and use it on your iPad in this video, or even on your PC, laptop, or on your screen using a Chromecast, you don't have to have it plugged in at all. So yeah, just a little bit of housekeeping before we get to today's video. Now, the way that this actually works is you're basically creating a shortcut to a Safari page of Stadia. Now, the way that this is done and the way that it's actually set up on the iPad or an iOS device basically means that when you then click on the icon, yes, it is going to take you technically to Safari, but it is also going to take you to a fully working version of Stadia, and it works extremely well and as good as any other device. For me, I've put around 4 or 5 hours into Cyberpunk solely on the iPad, and it's been a really great experience. Now, yes, the screen can sometimes be a little bit small, and you don't necessarily have all the scaling options that you would have on maybe like a PC, for example, but if you do want to play some games out and about and the only thing you've got is your iPad and your Bluetooth or Stadia controller, then this is a great way to play some AAA games on a smaller display. Now, although I'm going to be going over how to do this in this video, I will also have linked in the description down below Google's exact instructions to get it working on your iOS device. So the way this works is you want to be having your iPad or iOS device that you want to run Stadia on. Then on your iPhone or iPad, you need to launch the Safari application. Once you've done that, head over to stadia.com and just sign into your Stadia account as you normally would do. Now a prompt will appear letting you know that you can play in your browser, so select Got It. And then the Stadia home screen will appear just like it would do on any other device. Now, while you're in Safari on Stadia and all logged in, you want to select the share icon. Now, on an iPhone, this will be at the bottom of the display, and on your iPad, this will be in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Now, a share menu will appear, select the Add to Home Screen option, and it will appear next to the plus icon. And that's pretty much it, you're set and ready to go. Now, as you can see here, the actual icon for the Stadia web app is going to be an orange icon with the white logo inside. Whereas if you download Stadia for iOS devices, which is a bit of a useless application, it is going to be a white icon and the Stadia logo is going to be orange. Now for me, I do have the Stadia controller, so it's very easy to pair, but you can use any Bluetooth controller, so like an Xbox controller or PlayStation, and just pair it to your iPad like you normally would with a Bluetooth device. Once this is done, you can then go ahead, play games, and it is a really great experience. Now, although the iPad has a very high resolution screen and a 120Hz refresh rate, it isn't going to be able to use all of the features from Stadia Pro, so you aren't going to get things like HDR or the incredible sound or any of the 4K resolution. It is going to be 1080p at mainly 60 frames a second, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. Now don't get me wrong, on a smaller display 1080p looks incredible and 60 frames a second is pretty good for pretty much any game that you want to play on Stadia. Now as I've mentioned in the past, I really only use Stadia for single player games. Now yes, if I was to play any sort of competitive shooter or multiplayer game, I would be playing that on a dedicated console or PC because you do get an overall better experience, better frame rates and a slightly better connection. Now speaking of connection, it is extremely good on the iPad. Now iOS devices in general have really good Wi-Fi chips built directly into the device, so for me I had no issues, stutter, slowdown, or any of that sort of buffering pixelation that you sometimes get with a streaming service. Now I've also used the iPad's built-in screen recorder to record some gameplay of Cyberpunk 2077. Now keep in mind the video that you're watching isn't a high frame rate video, and yes, it's not going to be the maximum resolution, but as you can see here, the gameplay itself looks really nice. Now any stuttering or inconsistencies with the frame rate is just going to be down to the frame rate of my camera and the video that you're watching. The actual gameplay, and you can take my word for this, is smooth 60 frames a second with no hiccups at all. Having a quick look now at Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I recently picked this up for Stadia for around £10 here in the UK, which I actually thought was a really good deal in one of their sales, and again, gameplay is incredible, and the visuals look really nice on this smaller display. Now, I've also played some slightly older games like Grid Racing, for example, which again does look incredible as well, and I've recently downloaded Far Cry 5, and yes, while I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the game itself, it's not as good for me as something like Far Cry 4, for example, or even Far Cry 3. The actual visuals, gameplay, and the visual fidelity is extremely good on Stadia on the iPad. And that's going to do it, guys, for this video. Now, all of the instructions that I've mentioned are available direct from Google, and I will have that linked in the description down below. If there's any other videos that you guys want to see on Stadia or streaming platforms in general, let me know in the comments below, or just give this video a thumbs up so I know this is the kind of content that you guys enjoy here on the channel. If you're not already subscribed, now's a great time to do so, and once you've hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you're notified anytime I post a new video here on the channel. I'm Michael from Copper vs Glass. I'm going to get back to some gameplay on my iPad, and I will catch you guys in the next video.